Hello and welcome back to the videos on Pickit, Robot Vision Made Easy. In the previous video, we were talking about how we tell Pickit where it should look for objects to pick, such as inside this bin. In this video, we will talk about how we tell Pickit what to pick. Pickit has multiple detection engines, but the main one, the most commonly used, the most widely applicable is called Pickit Teach. And the way Pickit Teach works is that you first teach a model of the part that you want to pick by either showing it to the camera or by uploading a CAD model of your part. You then set a matching score, which basically means what is a good enough detection. For instance, if I see 80% of my part, do I consider this to be good? And then finally, Pickit detects the parts. It looks in a scene such as a bin full of parts for shapes that are similar to the model that we taught. In this example here, we see that the socket is found in multiple instances inside the bin. So we're saying that we can teach either by showing the part to the camera or by uploading a CAD file. So what are the benefits of each strategy? On the one hand, when we teach from camera, we have to take into account that often multiple models will be required. By multiple models, I'm referring to multiple viewpoints of the part. For instance, for this socket, there's a clear top and bottom part, so we would have to teach two models for this part. So teaching from camera is easy and simple when we have parts that require somewhere between 1 and 3 models to teach. But this is especially useful when you have parts where a CAD model does not exist, because in these cases, teaching from camera is your only option. Now, when you teach from CAD, there's the benefit that you end up with a single model that contains the full part geometry. And this is especially convenient when you deal with complex parts like a crankshaft. Also, it is really convenient if you have a CAD model readily available. You simply upload it and then you're ready to go. When we teach from camera, there's a couple of best practices that we recommend. The first one being that when you show the part to the camera, it should be isolated. It should not have clutter around it so that Pickit can easily determine the extent and the boundaries of your shape. And also, you should capture meaningful viewpoints of your part. So as we were saying before, for this part, it makes sense to capture both top and bottom. When you teach from CAD, the best practice that we would recommend is that you should align the coordinate axis of your model with significant features, salient features of your shape. For instance, align it with the principal directions of the socket. Or if you would have a shape that is cylindrical, you would probably want to align one of the axes with the cylinder's symmetry axis. What we are going to do now is move on to the Pickit user interface and do a quick live demonstration of how we teach a part. So here on the right side of the screen, we have the detection tab, which is where we do everything that is related to saying to Pickit, this is what you have to detect. The first thing that I will do is create a new file where this will be encoded. Pickit has what we call the product file, which is listed here, where we store information on what part should be detected, but also information related to how it should be picked. This is the scope of another video, and right now we're only going to focus on what should be picked. So I will create a new file, and I will call it sockets camera, because we're going to teach from camera initially. And we see here that Pickit Teach is enabled, so we leave it like that. And then we are using a high definition camera for this example. And the high definition camera has a number of presets that optimize the capture quality to the material and surface properties like reflectivity of your part. So in this case, we have parts that are made of plastic. They are light colored because they are white, and they are also not particularly reflective. So I will choose this preset. And just to make sure that I'm capturing well the geometry, I will put one part here. And then I can see here that we get a nice point cloud of it. You can also see here that we have a region of interest box here in blue, which was previously defined. And in this case, it is set to be inside of this bin that you see right here. So now we move on to the next step, which is to actually define the models of our part. And we have two options, teach from camera or from CAD. And in this case, we're going to teach from camera. So we see here that we have an initial capture of our model. We have these arrows that we can move and try to make the model fit as snugly as possible to the actual geometry of our part. We will click here crop, such that Pickit removes any empty space that is around. And if we confirm, we can see that we have a pretty nice model of the top of our part. So we would also like to have the bottom. So I'm flipping around the socket. And here I will click on the plus sign and I will say teach from camera again. This time, when I look at the quality of the capture, I see there's a big hole towards the bottom. And this is because the bottom of the part is really close to the bottom of the region of interest, so it's being cut off. So one thing that we recommend doing for these cases is that you simply rise a little bit the part. I will use another instance of the socket for this. And then I will reteach. If you have an existing model that you're not satisfied with, you can simply reteach it. And then I will confirm that I will lose any unsaved changes of this previous model. I say yes to that. And then we can see that we have much better quality of the model right now. But we also see that we captured a little bit of the part we used for rising. So what we will do here is we will move up the boundaries of the model a little bit up, and we will let Pickit crop that. And if we hide the markers, we see that now we have a really nice model of our part. Here we have set by default for each model that we want a minimum matching score of 80%. We want to see 80% of the part to consider it a good match. I'm going to leave that as a good default. And just to make sure that this is working as expected, I'm going to put a number of parts here in the bin, some looking up, some looking down, overlapping, and then we'll run a detection to see what happens. Okay, so we see that Pickit is detecting a number of parts. There's one in red, which means that it doesn't have a high enough matching score, so it got rejected. If we see the details, it says the object's matching score is too low. But we also see for all the other parts that they are colored orange, which means that they are valid. Pickit detected them. They have a good enough score, but they are not pickable. And this is because we haven't yet defined any pick points for this part. Before continuing, this example so far was teaching the part from the camera. What I would like to do now is I will save the product that we just created, and I will create a new one, which I will call Sockets CAD. And what I will do is something similar as before, but instead of teaching from camera, I will teach from CAD. And I am prompted with this pop-up where I can either drag and drop or click and select a file to upload, which I have here. And then we should always make sure to select the correct length units in which the file is expressed. In our case, it's in millimeters, and then we confirm. So the CAD model gets loaded, and you can see that as opposed to the previous case where we had two models, here we have one single model that encodes the full part geometry. And then we can directly detect and see what Pickit finds. We can see that in this case, it found all 5 parts. And you can see the differences between the experience of teaching from camera or teaching from CAD. So if we go back to our presentation here, we see that we are now able to detect the parts, but Pickit cannot yet pick them because it doesn't know where in the part it should go with the robot tool. So the next step, and this is the scope of the next video, is on how we tell Pickit where to pick the object. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching.